I'm preparing some Magickal inks, and they're quite easy to prepare. The first one that I'm going to make is a dragon's blood ink. I was just looking for my teaspoon and had to go and find it. So dragon's blood is a tree resin, not from real dragons, so no dragons have been harmed in the making of this Magickal ink. So you can buy it in crystals or powder form. It can be used as incense. It corresponds to Mars, so it's good for martial magic, but it's also a good general magical ink which gives power to any other ink. So it's a good base ink that you can then add other things to make other magical inks. So what I've got here is a mix of dragon's blood and some alcohol. It's best if you can use really strong denatured alcohol or ethanol. I haven't got that, so I'm just using vodka and gin. There's a bit of gin left in here, so I'm going to make a base dragon's blood mix. May as well use all the gin in here. And as it's a resin, it will dissolve in alcohol. It may take a bit of time to dissolve in alcohol. I'm going to put quite a lot of the resin in. And we're getting a nice deep colour there. It will take a while to dissolve, so it will need to be left for a while. I'm also going to add some gum arabic, which helps to thicken it and helps it to bind it to paper when you use it as an ink, or to parchment, or whatever you are writing your spells on if you're using it as a magical ink. I should have brought another teaspoon in really, because I don't want to put this teaspoon in there, so I'll just pour a bit in. A little bit more. We don't need as much gum arabic as we need dragon's blood. This is just to make it a bit more viscous, give it a bit more body. And I will leave it to dissolve and to continue to blend. If there are lumps, then you can strain the ink afterwards, but it should, if the ingredients are ground into a fine powder, they should actually dissolve in the alcohol. But they would dissolve better in a stronger alcohol, so I'm not sure how well it's going to dissolve here, but we will see how it goes, and if I need to strain it, I will strain it. I'm also going to add a couple of cloves. You can add clove oil or thyme oil, or if you haven't got the oils, then just add some cloves. They act as a preservative and increase the shelf life of the ink. So dragon's blood ink then can be used for all sorts of spells. It gives power to a spell. It can be used particularly for spells involving Mars, but also for other things. It's also used for protection and for good luck. But it's also a really good base to add other herbs to, so that you can create other magical inks. Some of them, they are commercially available from occult suppliers and witchcraft suppliers, and you can buy common ones that you can buy are bat's blood ink and dove's blood ink. So I have some commercial dove's blood ink. Dove's blood ink includes some herbs or essential oils which are related to Venus or Aphrodite, and dove's blood ink is mainly used for love spells. Bat's blood ink is more concerned with Mars and with cursing and binding and banishing and breaking curses, and it tends to add myrrh as well as other herbs of Mars, so hot spices, things like cinnamon, also indigo herb and indigo colouring to give it a darker colour. So those are the main ones that you can use, you can make based on dragon's blood. But you can also use other herbs, so you can use things like turmeric together with finely ground up gold leaf to make a solar magical ink. So I'm going to use some of this ink as a base for some other inks. So I've got a jar here which I will put some of this ink into when it's ready, and I'm going to prepare another mix. So I wanted to make something that isn't one of the commercially available inks. I've been working with the Greek Magickal papyri recently, and one thing that's called for in some of the spells is the blood of a black dog. And this is used particularly for Hecatean magic and underworld magic and magic for liminal spaces. Now, these inks are a substitute for the blood of the animal. Bat's blood ink does not contain the blood of bats. Dove's blood ink does not really contain dove's blood, and dragon's blood doesn't really contain the blood of a dragon, but rather the blood of a tree. So following that same pattern, I thought I would make a dog's blood ink with herbs that are relevant. So thinking what the ink is for, it's used for spells that are for Hecate, for the underworld, for the liminal, for protection, for boundaries, for thresholds, for crossing thresholds, for necromancy, for protection, for underworld and liminal magic, for psychopompic work, all that kind of thing. So I was thinking, what kind of herbs do I need for that? And I was thinking about the kind of doctrine of signatures and names of herbs that might fit. And there is actually a plant called dog's blood berries. It's a Jamaican plant, not available over here, and although one can buy the herb, one can't buy the berries over here. I would have liked to have used the berries themselves, because the herb is called dog's blood bush because of the red berries that yield a red blood-like liquor. But I needed to use local herbs. I thought about things that have dog in their name, such as dog's mercury, and dogwood. But it seems on researching those names that the word dog in them doesn't actually mean dog. It originates from a dagger. It was originally dag's wood or dagger's wood. So looking at the correspondences of them, they also didn't seem to quite fit, so I decided not to use them. I then thought about horehound, and I looked at the correspondences of white horehound and black horehound. I thought black horehound would be better because of the colour, and although the word hound may not actually relate to dogs either, but it might just be an old English word for herb, I thought some of the correspondences of black horehound seemed to fit quite well for my purposes. And another herb that grows locally to me is mugwort. And mugwort is often used in modern times for Hecatean magic, and it's good for dreams and for the liminal and psychic work. So I thought I'd add some mugwort and some black horehound. And I can also darken them with a bit of iron, which gives a little bit of Mars energy as well as the dragon's blood having Mars energy. Whereas the herbs themselves are more related to Saturn, which is very kind of Hecatean as well. So I'm going to make some dog's blood ink, which I'll be using the dragon's blood ink as a base and adding an extract of black horehound and of mugwort, which will be boiled in water to extract them, and then I'll be adding a little bit of the iron liquid that I've made with the rusty horseshoes in vinegar to give it a slightly darker colour, because otherwise it comes out kind of a light green. And then I'll be mixing that together and again adding a little bit more of the gum arabic to make the dog's blood ink. I'll also be looking at making donkey's blood ink, which is another one that's required for the Greek magical papyri spells, or rather the blood of a donkey. So the dog's blood ink, think the hounds of Hecate, think Kerberos, think all that kind of underworldy stuff. But for donkey's blood ink, donkeys were sacred to Seth, So think Set, the Egyptian god of chaos. So I'm looking for things that are more kind of chaotic. So I'm still having a think about that, but I'm also, again, thinking about the doctrine of signatures and herbs that are donkey-like. And one that I'm considering is mullein. Mullein is also called donkey's ears because it has these long furry leaves which resemble donkey's ears. Anyway, I'll be looking at that in another video.